Hey everybody, good evening. This is Lena. You're watching Lena's Life. And I'm sitting here on a nice cold Friday night. But I'm warm because that fireplace right there is warming me up really nicely. And we have our Christmas tree and life is good, right? So the last couple of days just been a little rough in the sense of just processing stuff and trying to make sense of why people say the things that they do, because I don't know. Hurtful words are, I guess, hurtful. There's this comment that this woman left on our transition radio show at Gmail page, and I wanted to respond to it because there was just certain things they addressed me and stuff like that, and she addressed Mark and whatnot. And apparently this woman had been following us since, I guess, she latched onto us back in 2016 when we first started to do transition and stuff. And that was a very challenging time, no doubt, and a very hard time as well, because I don't know, it was just, I was overwhelmed with guilt about my kids and everything and what had happened and stuff. So I did things that, probably were a bit abrupt in making major changes in my life that I ended up reneging on just, I don't know, not even 2 months later, And I guess it speaks to the power of, what it is that I personally deal with on a daily basis with regards to gender. And I've learned a lot in that amount of time. But, there's still a lot of things that I have yet to learn and stuff. And one of those things was just processing through identity, what it means, what it signifies and stuff. And I kind of find myself sometimes between a rock and a hard place because, well, I didn't detransition or anything, and I stayed with Mark, and we never did anything different with regards to our marriage and all that. But this woman, she referred to Mark, his old name and stuff, and Mark doesn't mind me saying the name because he's cool with it, So this woman, older lady, she was she's a Messianic Jew, I'm not sure, but she doesn't believe in like the total, like traditional Christianity. And she had been emailing us throughout that time and was saying, no, don't fall into the trap of regular fundamental Christianity and stuff, and look into the teachings of, Yeshua or something or whatever. But we were just kind of really turned off, honestly, by the whole thing, and we kind of, kept our distance and stuff. And then I guess recently she just reached out because she's been watching her videos and stuff. And she said stuff like, Maritza, I could see how you're like me, and Paul, I can see how you're like my husband, and I'm just glad that you guys are able to, Be yourselves, but you don't always have to agree. Like I don't always agree with my husband, and Paul, you're like that, and it's like, so calling me by a name that I don't know, for whatever reason, I have a real disdain for that name, and she kept on with that, right? So it's already, it's kind of like it's a put off, to hear it and stuff like that, because I don't know, I just don't live with that name anymore, and it's not a big deal for Mark to be using his old name and stuff, and he doesn't care. But for whatever reason, I care. And so I reached out to this woman, and she basically, she wrote to me and said a few things that I don't know. I don't know what it is. That people think that they're not hurting people by saying it, or they don't think that, they don't think that it really matters to say the things that they do. But for whatever reason, she said it. And she said, I definitely see the masculine side in her, referring to Maritza. But I also see the feminine side when she was detransitioning. And personally, I think you two are very beautiful people, both physically and in personality. From whatever a person can learn from YouTube, obviously, I don't really know you. And that's the thing, a lot of times, you only know as much as the person on YouTube would be willing to share. And I've been willing to share a lot, so I guess anybody who knows me, who's followed me, knows pretty much the truth, because I haven't really, I don't know, I'm not somebody else when I'm not on YouTube. So she goes, when I saw the two of you together during the detransition, I saw two people who loved each other very much. One was a big, strapping, handsome man with a very gentle demeanor. And then parentheses, you. So, and one was a petite woman who possibly has never known love from a man. I saw you as that man. And it was like, she made emphasis to put that out there, that I was the one, I was a big, strapping, handsome man, and it's like, well, at the time, I was taking testosterone supplements, so I was bulking up in that sense. So I guess I was a big, strapping, handsome man, because in October, I did take a picture with Mark and Maritza at the time, and we were walking around Fort Lauderdale, and yeah, I was pretty good size and stuff, and Maritza at the time, was chiseling out, a specimen, I guess, whatever. So I can see where she would say that, but that was a facade for me. I was trying to do what, I was being asked to do, or what I was expected to do and stuff. So I did what I was expected to do. But I really had a problem with it. That's why it didn't last the whole time. And there are some that are going to say, but, that's what you are. So why not just embrace it, And it's like, I guess it's easy for someone who's not walking life like I do, and walking in the life that I've lived and stuff, because, it's just hard. If it was easy, believe me, I wouldn't even be here. I would be I would have, been continued married and with 5 children and everything. And, I wouldn't have struggled like I have, So I told her, I said, well, I'm not just that, And she goes, well, we're all very complicated creations. And I go, oh, well, that's true. Thanks for reinforcing my dysphoric feelings that are very deep. And yes, we are. You're entitled to speak whatever you want to, because people are going to see what they want to see, right? If they see a big strapping man, then they see a big strapping man. I can't make you see something that you don't see if you don't see it, right? So there I am processing through all that, right? I'm processing through what the ramifications are, what that means in the scope of things for me as I live my life now. And I said, I'm offended, but at least you spoke your truth. And, Mark's been teaching me a lot about, just taking things that I don't want to hear and just sitting with it and not shutting down the conversation or trying to avoid it. But sitting with the negative feeling and absorbing it and letting it just kind of sit there so you can process what's going on. So I was attempting to do that. I was attempting to be gracious and thoughtful in the sense of just not getting offended at her as I was offended or whatever. So she writes, I have offended you. I'm sorry. I want to be open in this relationship, quote unquote. And I'm like, I don't know what kind of relationship you're looking for, but I've been following you for over 3 years because I have a burden for you. A lot of people have a burden for me. I'm sure a lot of people, people that in my past, I'm sure they have a burden for me. I didn't know anything much about all that transgender world stuff until I met, quote unquote, you too. I'm not interested in entitlement. I'm interested in loving people, and I believe that love is being honest. I don't mean to come across as harsh at all. You've never asked a thing about me. Do you care about me, or is everything going to just be about you? And I'm like, well, first of all, I never reached out to you. You're asking me about personal things about my life, and I even know you existed. So I wouldn't be asking about this person, this woman, because I don't really, this was a reach out to us, right, as a couple. And I said, you have no idea what kind of wounds you do open up, though. You have no clue. Did I offend you in any way? Because a lot of times people, when they speak their truth, and it's truth to them, right? And, they think that those things don't affect or offend other people, or they feel like they're entitled to speak it, and they think that it doesn't have any repercussions on people. And she goes on and says, do you have a clue about my wounds? Apparently this woman has dealt with Lyme disease and other, things with losing her children and access to being able to have them in her life. And, we could have talked about that stuff, but she went really deep personal, really fast with me. Because when you go into deep personal gender issue stuff with me, then it really does, it does affect me. So I don't have, although I've grown some, I don't profess to have figured it out, this whole, thing with my gender. I haven't. So she goes on, and I said, you were asking about us, and you were reaching out to us both. I'm glad that you see a petite woman in Maritza. I do not. I've never seen that necessarily in Mark. So, his ex didn't see that either, in the sense of what that is. I mean, I've seen a very tender side to Mark, and I've seen the Maritza side to Mark, but when, they say a very petite, very, it's like almost like it's like some defenseless damsel. And I'm supposed to be the big strapping dude that's supposed to like come to her rescue or something. And it's like, I'm sorry, I've never seen that. I've always seen Mark, Maritza, however, people want to call this person, I call my husband, and my spouse and my best friend. I've always seen them as a very strong individual. I've seen them as a strong person. So whether they were Maritza, which I never really met, I never had the opportunity. I am sure that I would have loved Maritza too, but I honestly never saw the full person of Maritza, right? So Mark is who I've seen. Mark is who showed up at the hospital in his beanie and with his beard and everything. So that's how I saw Mark. And I said, that is what it is about me. But no, unfortunately, many in the transgender community see themselves as being able to become the opposite sex. I told her, she goes, well, I don't see you as a woman. And I go, well, I don't claim to be a woman in the sense of being a woman, but I don't claim to be a man either. I find myself in between, in the middle of the spectrum. And if there was a license that could be gender marker that could be given for a person who's kind of not one or the other, then I would like that distinction, So I was willing to give up that whole sense of entitlement for wanting to be classified as a woman, but it wasn't good enough for her. She had to just probe more, right? So I said, I didn't believe that anyone can become the opposite sex, and then that's just kind of where I'm at in my own personal experience. I don't think that there's anything that any male-born individual can do to make themselves into a female. I mean, you can feminize, but you can't become a woman, right? So I said, I honestly don't see Mark as a woman. I know Mark was born as a female and lived life as a female for 38 years, but I didn't see that life. So my frame of reference has always been more of a masculine side to seeing Mark, right? And that is why I've never felt comfortable calling him Maritza. I live with him and his masculine nature is very dominant. And I'm sure most people can attest to that just by what you see, right? And she goes, exactly. I'm imagining that I would tell my grandkids what I would tell my grandkids if they met you. I think they wouldn't see you as passable, though Maritza most definitely is. So they would ask me why that man is wearing ladies' clothes. Or maybe, so even though you don't see yourself as a male, I do. Is it okay to call you a male name that you like? Because she didn't want to call me Lena. She wanted to call me Paul, right? And I said, I'm not okay with that because I didn't even like that name growing up. Myself, personally, I didn't even like my own name when I was a kid, So as an adult, I always tinkered with wanting to change it. So she goes, do you have a middle name that didn't bother you so much? And it was like, dang, lady, oh my gosh, you just offended me in a massive way. You just said, I'll never see you as passable, or Maritza definitely is, but you're not. And I'm like, my lived experience is quite different. And I don't claim to be this or that passable or whatever, but what I do say is that I live my life and I have lived my life, and I haven't run into major problems, and people or, and people are gracious and kind and loving and friendly and stuff like that. And I've never really run into major issues. I've had some circumstances that have arisen, but gosh, in the scope of things, I mean, when I put it in a percentage scale, I mean, it doesn't add up to much at all. So for me, I've never really had a real problem necessarily. So when she said that, I was just like, you don't even know me. You don't even know what I go through on a daily basis. You don't know how Mark and I live our lives and stuff. So I told her, I said, Mark's intersex, I know that. And his mom has a hard time coming to terms with that, but that's the truth. So let's just let it all out there. I said, oh my God, okay, all right. I don't even know what to say. I guess you made your point. And I said, thanks for the offense. Wow. And, she's like, well, I don't want to sugarcoat, and I don't want to lie to you, and I don't want to like walk around eggshells and stuff. And, and then I went to take a shower because, it was that time. And then Mark and I just had our peace totally disrupted that evening. It got to the point where I was extremely offended, and I know it's like, I shouldn't be offended. I should be a bigger person than allowing that kind of thing to bother me. But it did. It actually hit a really deep place in my life. And I don't know why it's so deep. I don't understand. And Mark wanted to ask me, why is it that you get so offended? Why do you get so hurt by it? And I go, I don't know. I really can't explain it. I don't know what it is, but it just hurts, I don't know. So, but it ended up really ruining our evening. And, when one person ruins one's evening, and I know that people are going to tell me, you shouldn't give someone like that who doesn't even know you the right to do that. I mean, you let it happen, and it's like, it's not that I wanted it to happen. It's just it did, So after my shower, I went to the bedroom and just started listening to music, and I was just quiet, and I just wanted to process it and just be by myself, because when I get offended, I just want to kind of just be by myself and not think about it and not have to be questioned about it and stuff. So I'm sitting there listening to music. Mark comes in and he's like, I just want to, and I'm like, and I was just reactive. I was like, no, I truly, and then I pegged him as part of the problem because, he goes, oh, she's getting out of the shower now, and I don't want to, she, he just like said that I got mad and stuff or whatever. And then I was being defensive and stuff. And it wasn't true, although he says that that's how it felt, He feels things. He's an empath, so he felt my energy. And I was like, well, I was just trying to process things. And coming in to the bedroom just made it worse because now you like are making me talk and you're making me deal with it. And, Mark's very much a person who's wanted to teach me to confront things. And it's a good thing to do that. It's a good thing to confront issues and stuff. But it's also painful because, I had a conversation with my sister the other day, and Mark was in the conversation as well. And Lopez's don't confront. Lopez is always kind of like, put things in the back burner, or they don't want to deal with it, or they don't talk about it. And I'm a Lopez that started to talk about stuff, but I'm still, my sister's a lot worse than I am with the sense of wanting just to put things in the back burner. My mom does the same thing. And I've always been more of a confrontational part of my family, in the sense of wanting to deal with stuff. But still, I mean, when it comes to gender and when it comes to talking about things that have caused me great pain in my life, things that have caused me to do things that have affected other people's lives and not for good, right? I just, maybe it's a sense of guilt that I still feel. Maybe it's a sense of pain that I feel from not liking myself. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it, but it was just hard, and just, and Mark's like, well, if you are who you say you are, then you shouldn't let other people take away your peace. And, and I just find myself like going, oh, not again, right? Not again. Having to deal with these feelings of negativity and hurt and abandonment and shame and, and then being told stuff, and it's like, and I get it, really, I do. I'm 5'11", Mark's 5'5" at best, right? Sometimes claims to be 5'4" even. So there's a major discrepancy in our height. So like, definitely I'm tall and stuff, and I said a lot of things in my detransition video where I made fun of, the fact that I can never be or never do or, never pass and all that stuff. And, but, people come in all shapes and sizes, not everyone's 5'4", not everyone's 5'11", not everyone's whatever, right? And people, men, yes, are taller than women on a, standardized, if you were to percentile it, and stuff. But, it was just something that I remember what this girl that was and her husband, this woman and her husband that we met in Fort Lauderdale. We were sitting down across the table from her, and they were Christians and stuff, and they were all excited about us converting and witnessing our testimony and stuff like that. And, I was in my detransition mode, and Maritza was in her detransition mode, and she came and brought flowers to Maritza, and it was a beautiful thing. And, it was, really neat, and we prayed together, and we broke bread and ate together, and they looked up to us and everything. And she looks at me and she goes, yeah, no, your head's too big. Look at your hands and look at your feet, and and it's like all those things just come flowing back. You hear stuff, and it's like, and it's like, gosh, that's not the sense of just what makes me who I am, it was just, I heard, this woman say, you're a big strapping whatever, and it was like, gosh, and then I remember words that my ex told me and said, you will never be like me, and it was like, and all this stuff. And like I said, I'm not claiming to be a woman. I'm not claiming to be all that, whatever. I just know that I'm different. I just know that I'm not normal, and, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like in feeling not guilty about it, that, people are going to think that that's wrong, that, that maybe I've gone too far, that I've gone too far off, and, I don't know, I'm a risk taker by nature, I'm a truth seeker and truth teller, and I want to know what's the truth, what's the meaning of life, like what does it mean to be a follower of Christ? What does it mean to understand the truth and stuff? So I've been on this journey, right? And I've been on this path that I wasn't really comfortable being able to be on before I transitioned. I was always, by the book, traditional Christian, I remember I didn't do stuff. I felt very ashamed of my testimony because mine was so boring. I remember even flunking out of personal evangelism class in Bible college because I didn't want to make a track, which was like a testimonial, like little booklet, because I didn't feel like I had a testimony. It's like, gee, I was raised in church. Let me see, I went to Christian school. I gave Jesus my heart when I was 5, and I was filled with the Holy Spirit when I was 9. And I have really not done much other than not feel comfortable with my gender. And I love to sing, So I just, it was really something that it's just, life is complicated. It just really is. And when you're trans or dealing with gender stuff, it's even more complicated, and I'm not looking for people's compassion or empathy or, oh, poor you, because, there's so many people that are so much worse off than I would ever be. I'm blessed, to have to deal with this. Other people have to deal with other things, and other people don't have food. Other people don't have a warm fire that they can sit in front of. They don't have a Christmas tree behind them, or a beautiful life and a wonderful partner to share life with. I am blessed beyond all measure, and I can't complain. I'm thoroughly blessed. So I just still have hangups about the gender thing, and maybe in the future, I don't know, maybe I'll be able to grow past it, and then maybe I won't. The Bible says that Paul had a thorn in his flesh and that he always wanted God to take it away from him, but that God didn't want to take it away from him because he wanted to teach him humility and how to depend on him and stuff like that. And there's going to be people are going to say, well, you can't be a transgender person and believe in Jesus Christ, because if you do, then, you're living a lie, because what you're doing is going to send you to hell. And, and it's like, I'm willing to have that conversation with God on that day, and God will judge me for my decisions and stuff and what I've done with my life and everything. And I know I haven't made the right decisions in a lot of things. I totally get it. Namely one, my family, and if I could be more supportive to them, I could be more apparent in their lives and stuff. And, I would, but given what I have, the cards that I've been dealt with, and it's not just me, but just, just given those facts, I can't do anything, so I do what I can, I reach out when I can, and, but I'm accountable to God at the end of the day. And just like I'm accountable to God, you're accountable to God, for what your actions and what you do. And, that's just kind of where it's at. And it just makes me really get turned off to Christians when I hear people like this that have no clue to what it is that we in the transgender community deal with regards to what we do deal with. And, I know people are going to say, oh, you guys are just a bunch of babies, just deal with it and stuff. But, it's so deep. It's hard to explain. It really is. It's a matter of it's like something so deeply entrenched inside of one that it's just hard to put words to the type of incongruency or discomfort or whatever it is, it's there, So I've just been processing through the last few days, and I've been distant from Mark and trying to process it, and he deserves more of me and stuff. But gosh, when things get dealt where you have to face the facts of things that you wrestle with, it becomes so difficult. It becomes so, I don't know, it just gets hard in not knowing how to deal with it. And, and then Mark talks about, well, if we're doing the wrong thing, then, we're going to be judged for it, it's and I go, maybe I'm too far gone, I don't know, but I don't feel like what I'm doing with my life is going to send me to eternal damnation, because I don't know, in my heart, I still, after all said and done, and I've looked at all the things and options of how I can approach what it means to be loved by a power and a creator. I think of God's love and I listen to music, and I still can worship. I still can, feel the presence of God in my life and the Holy Spirit. So I know the Holy Spirit hasn't left me, and I know that my heart still yearns for God, and it still is seeking His presence in my life. So I see so much darkness in the trans community. There's lots of darkness, lots of evil, lots of people doing things, and and I know I fell into the same trap, and occasionally I do fall into those traps, like when I went to Minnesota, and I just kind of threw caution to the wind and almost got in a lot of trouble. But I don't know, it's like God put Mark in my life, and God put me in Mark's life in order to show Himself to each other. It's like I've seen so much unconditional love in the person that's sitting across from me right now on his computer, and he's been such a huge blessing to me. I mean, he's given me just so much love, so much compassion, so much. He's brought lots of joy to me, lots of joy, and I just know that had I not transitioned, and I would never have even met the person that's across from me right now. I would never have even known the kind of love that he had for me. And I don't know, maybe it's when it gets into the concept of God's permissive will and God's perfect will. Was it God's perfect will for me to meet Mark? And, was it God's permissive will for me to meet Mark and stuff? Well, at the end of the day, I did what I did. God knows the decisions that I made. And God knows that some of those decisions were done out of a wrong, motivation and stuff. But I don't know. I mean, prior to meeting me, he wouldn't even give Christianity a second glance. He wouldn't even think of, he was spiritual, but he didn't really want to follow any teachings or anything like that. And the thing is that when we leave and we go to teach, to learn about other things, and we're open to all these different texts, Nag Hammadi scriptures, and emerald tablets, and all these different new age teachings and things that I was told and warned about back when I was in high school that were going to be prominent in the age to come. I mean, in the future, which is now. It's all stuff that I don't know if he would have even thought to give Christianity, or not Christianity, because we don't even believe in traditional Christianity. It's just, the teachings of Christ, following the commandments of how God wants us to live our lives. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, who's to know what God's plans are for us, and who's to know what he allows us to get involved in, and what it is that he teaches us through those things, because, I mean, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from him. I've learned a lot in this transition, learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about other people, learned a lot about fair weather friends. I've learned a lot about people that say they love you, and then you find out that they only love you when you do what they want you to do, and they don't love you unconditionally, So I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about things and about people and stuff. And I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure out what it is that I'm supposed to do, and what Mark and I are supposed to do with our lives. And, we don't agree with a lot of things that goes on in the trans community. Most of the things that go on, real issues that we have with, transitioning children at a young age, and, puberty blocking drugs. We've been talking about that since we were together. Hi, Chaser. I see you had a lot of questions. You said, my wife wants to know, how is your relationship with your kids? Well, it's not that great. For one, I haven't seen most of them, and I have 5. I haven't seen most of them since 2014. I haven't seen any of them except for my oldest son, who I was so excited to see back in May of this year. And it was so wonderful to see him. But, I just saw him like for maybe 3 hours, and that was it. 3 hours out of 5 years is not much time. So I do miss them terribly, and I always think about them, And my only daughter is now in college, and she's very smart, very keeps to herself. So I can't find any information about her. I can't find any information about any of my kids. So I'm kind of like in the dark, I don't know what's happening. And I don't know, that's just hard. It's hard to deal with. And it's always kind of like something that lingers in the back of my mind. I don't know if I've ever had a day where I haven't thought about them, where I haven't really thought about what they're doing, or, I don't know. So, anyways, do you really need to know what God is up to? No, I don't. I don't need to know what God's up to, but I'm curious to know what he wants to do with me. Now, Mark and I are going to be meeting with a pastor and his wife. Maybe a big mistake. But again, I wanted to just raise a few concerns with how the church treats trans people. And I just wanted to talk to him about stuff. And he met us before, like we used to go to a gym that he used to go to. And we used to talk a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's tomorrow, Sunday. On Sunday, we're supposed to meet with him and his wife. And, Mark and I have contemplated on going to his church and stuff. Would we be welcome? Would we be able to, or fellowship with them, or would they just, want to convert us and put us on a timetable of detransition and stuff? And, I don't know. It's something that I think the church, and I'm not saying that people should condone our behavior, because, well, a lot of people have real fundamental issues with people messing with their gender, and I don't blame them for how they feel. With the recent stuff that Celine Dion is doing with gender neutral clothing and all the demonic undertones and overtones, it does make you really question, who's behind what's going on in the trans community, most of it and stuff. Who's behind all the sex change operations and the rush to transition, and, and this need to be happy and to fulfill one's desires and stuff, because it's one of those things that it has a lot of me involved in it, a lot of me, I don't want to not be happy. I want to live my life. I deserve, So, the teachings of Christ teach you to deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow him, and drop the things that you hold on to and stuff. Sell all things and follow after the master. So there's a lot of things that make it difficult for people who are in this community to want to follow, because they're hard sayings, and they're things that a lot of people wouldn't agree with. A lot of people would say, this Jesus thing, this God thing, it's more than I can handle. I don't want to do this, or I don't want to sacrifice that. But a lot of people, have a problem with authority, right? So I just want to be able to know the truth and walk in the truth, and to be light in a dark place. And the reason with that pastor is like, a lot of times Christians see us as modern day lepers. They see the LGBT community as just a bunch of people that you want to stay away from. And the thing is that people are hurting, and you can't walk away or pretend that other people don't exist just because you don't agree with their life and their choices. You have to really have compassion for people and work for where they're at. So I'm hoping that Mark and I can share with that pastor and his wife just what it is that trans people go through, or what it is that people in this community deal with, and what gets them here, what makes them make the choices that they make, and what circumstances are there, and what the church can do and how the church can respond, other than just ignoring or pretending like everybody's just a demonic entity. And so hopefully, and like I said, I don't want people just to welcome transgender people left, right, and center and just accept what they're doing and stuff if they don't fundamentally agree with what is happening. But I do think that the church needs to wake up to understand that love is the only way that you're going to ever be able to make a difference in this world. And by pointing a bony finger at people and telling them that they're going to go to hell, it's just not going to get it done, whether it's true or not. And I'm still on the fence of the hell thing. I'm still on the fence with the whole eternal damnation and punishment for eternity thing. But I do 100% subscribe to love and, reaching out to those who are in need, those who are hurt, those who need help. A lot of people can't even make sense of their lives. And, people throw themselves into this life, as a trans person, because they want to find solutions and answers in things that, well, trans ideology is not an answer. It's a symptom and another scapegoat for covering up what is really causing problems in your life. And if you have a real hatred of yourself, what would be better than to blame your gender and to say, oh, that's why I don't like myself, because I should have been born a woman, because I should have been born a man. Oh, that's it. And it's like, no, that's not it. If you think that that's it, if you think that that's the kind of end all, be all of why you're doing and dealing with what you're dealing with, if you're trans, you gotta look deeper. You gotta look a little deeper than that, because that's an easy place to store your problems. And you can just put all your eggs in that basket and think that that's your solution. But if it was the solution, don't you think that there would be a lot more happy people that are trans? A lot of times, what I find out is that the people that do what they do, the surgeries and all the things that they do to make themselves into certain this or that, or appear this or that way, they're still empty. They're still broken. They're still hurting. And now, not are they just hurting emotionally, now they're hurting physically. You know, there's a trans woman that recently had the big surgery and stuff, and they said that when they cough, it's like they feel like they're almost dying or something, you know, because they feel like they're, what was it?
Wishbone.
They feel like they're being wishboned or something. Yeah, it's like, I don't know. You know, I mean, finding solutions should never mean, you know, making oneself sick or causing your body to go out of whack and to hurt yourself. Cutting body parts off that need to be there. And as you age, you need those body parts. And I know, Chase, that you're interested in wanting to get, you know, breast removal and all that. It causes you dysphoria. But I wouldn't advocate it. I wouldn't really be pushing for any of it, you know, and I would say that for a person that was not dealing with gender too, you know, unless it's like medically necessary, you know, there's cancer in a breast or something like that, I would not recommend it. You know, I would not say that it's a good thing to do, you know, because surgeries come with lots of risks. You know, I had surgery on my throat and it came with lots of risks, but I was like so like sold that I was like willing to take whatever risk it was in order to alleviate myself of the Adam's apple, you know. And, you know, I went under anesthesia for like 4 hours. I could have slipped into a coma like that, you know, and not have ever woken up, you know, because anesthesia is like that. You're playing Russian roulette, you know. So, you know, and I know the stories Mark told me about having a double mastectomy and a hysterectomy, removal of ovaries and all the stuff that he had done in like one massive operation, and not thinking anything while his mom and sister were just like groaning, literally groaning and just in mourning, you know, over what this person that they love so dearly was going to do to themselves physically. Because when we're sold on this train, it's like we're so focused, we're just so like I mean, emboldened and like entitled to do what we want to do, and we don't even think the ramifications of the dangerous. So I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend surgeries for anybody unless it's like the last resort, you know. But that's me. And I'm sure that's Mark too. So I had opportunity to get surgery done on my back and stuff and my neck. I would have been fused together and like that, you know, and not being able to move my neck and stuff. And I'm just so grateful that I listened to Mark, listened to his advice. And, you know, yeah, so you say my surgery came as a result of large tumors, had surgery twice. Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, if it's medically necessary, that's something that you decide for your own health and benefit. But if something's not medically necessary and it's just some external, nuisance and stuff. I remember my trans friend would say, I feel like my gonads are like a tumor that need to be removed. And they had them removed eventually, but they are no longer, I don't even recognize the person that I knew, like even 5 years ago, 4 years ago and stuff. They're just like a totally different person, physically, just sick and constantly dependent on marijuana for relief. And, it's like we do these things and then we don't realize the ramifications of our actions and stuff. So I'm hoping that Mark and I can be an encouragement to people to think twice about hurting yourselves, because that's basically what you're doing. And just try to develop a certain type of love and respect for your temple, for your body, for your own personal self that would help you to love yourself, see what the divine sees in you, see the beauty of you that is you without doing all the things that you want to do to yourself. And accept yourself, love yourself. Well, anyway, thanks you guys for listening. And Chaser's the only one who commented, but thanks, Chaser, for your comments. And thank you for your encouragement, saying, I think you guys will be fine. I think so. I think we're going to be fine. So have a great night, you guys. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys on another podcast. Anyway, bye.